Welcome back to Enterprise AI News. I'm your host, Troy Angradon, and I'm here with my co-host, Ian Wilson. I understand, Ian, we're going to be talking about companies adding AI to their products. What have you got for us on that theme today?
Yeah, we're going to dive into Zoom
Okay.
for a couple of items. Zoom, I think everybody knows. And generally, when I talk about enterprise AI, often we're talking about AI as a service, very large scale applications. But one other area we shouldn't gloss over that's going to become increasingly important are the tools that we use in enterprise having AI features added onto them to extend their
Absolutely.
capability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Zoom's doing here shows that quite nicely. So the first thing to take a look at is Zoom launches AI-powered features aimed at sales teams. So what's that all about? That's quite interesting. So obviously we're using Zoom for making sales calls. And one of the interesting elements about sales calls or any kind of sales interaction is because it's that revenue generating, tip of the spear, you'd really like to be able to review that kind of information as a sales manager or a sales team and say what went wrong, what went right, how can we improve that, because it's such an important part of the business. And what Zoom are doing when it comes to sales calls, they're adding in technology that is able to, first of all, look at what are they saying? Review. Zoom also says blah, 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 blah. Zoom IQ for sales can identify opportunities, assess risks, and ultimately enable and improve sales team performance. It uses natural language processing, so there's our AI models, to process post-meeting transcripts. And this is the interesting part. Process transcripts and deal progress data, generating insights for sales reps and managers. So interestingly, I saw another company, it was called Otter.ai, OTTER.ai.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somebody using that today on Zoom doing the same thing. It was doing real-time transcription.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. I mean, I was watching it literally almost in real time transcribe the entire Zoom meeting at a really high level because it was a global team I was talking to. With no easy feat. So you would be surprised that you can actually transcribe meetings in real time. But this is not really looking at the real time aspect, although that's taking AI by itself. It's then post-processing those transcripts to look at some really interesting items. So Zoom's also got a contact center we've talked about in the past before. But it's looking at things, where does it talk about what it can do? Can solicit guidance from managers. Obviously, they can't sit on a call. Okay, so Zoom IQ for Sales generates an engagement score that aims to capture how attentive a given customer is. So it's going to process that transcript, see how much that customer's talking based on talk time, looking at the lag between responses, the number of times the customer speaks. So do you have a salesperson, perhaps a salesperson who's like me, who just talks all the time, doesn't listen? You can pick that up, you can score it, create metrics on it, look at the sentiment, measure positive and negative based on the words, measure filling words like and ah. But what you can do essentially is score every sales call based on those factors. Now, that's not really something you could do in a sales team unless your sales manager actually sat in on every call and was sat writing notes. So that's a really interesting application of AI built on top of a tool that we use in the enterprise that we don't think of as AI. It's just video calling. But this is a great way to expand that capability from Zoom. And the key point here is you'll find for all of your enterprise tools that everybody is looking at how they can extend them using AI, how they can build more capabilities in. And this is one example.
There are a number of companies that have been doing this for at least a few years that are bolt-ins to Zoom. So I can imagine what happened is Zoom looked at all the plugins and which ones were popular, looked at the license revenue that those folks were getting, and said, "Oh, gee, we should steal some of that business from our partners." we should go ahead and build some of this. I would be highly suspicious of the quality of something like this. This is going to be bolted on as a feature. They just right there point out Gong. Gong is one of the companies I was going to mention. There are companies like this that have very high per user per seat costs. On the order of like $1,000 per user per month. I don't know if that's Gong's, but thousands or thousands of dollars per user per year, things like that. And they make a lot of bold claims about we're going to reduce your deal cycle, we're going to improve your close rates, we're going to provide all this sort of like high degree level of sales coaching. That's a pretty bold claim for a sales performance company, let alone for a video conferencing company like Zoom. So I think it's a pretty high bar to say we're going to be able to, I didn't see any claims made here in the article, but for them to be able to say we're going to be able to, provide coaching cues or give you a score, even a score for the meeting. I bet the best sales managers or some of these more focused companies like Gong or Outreach, I don't know if Outreach does this, they've probably done the hard work of understanding how would you score a meeting. I certainly wouldn't trust Zoom to score a sales meeting. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it makes sense that they're going into the space. I would question whether any of their scoring or metrics are actually valid or useful.
I think some of the things that, looking at how much time the sales prospect is talking versus the other one, that's certainly a metric they should be able to pull out. The space between words, the sentiment. I think some of those general items are not particularly state of the art per se, once they've got the transcription right. Anyway, it's scheduled to launch in April, so it would be interesting to keep tabs of that and see how it's going.
Definitely would be.
Almost certainly, I'm not sure it says in this article, but almost certainly they bought that. You mentioned there's a lot of plugins. I would have doubt they would have built it themselves. Almost certainly they've bought one that's somebody already built and just added it to their suite.
It did mention something about an acquisition of Kite. I don't know if that was pertinent to this particular function, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes. And this may just be the lower end, easier entree, $20 per user per month, uplift on their account. They get a bit of extra revenue. It gives them a little bit more useful features for folks that will never go and sign up for some of these higher order, more dedicated companies.
So let's take a look at what else Zoom is doing. Just an easy, fun one here, just to end with. Zoom thumbs up and raise hand gestures recognition now works in its desktop apps. So,
wait, let me test it. Oh, we're not on Zoom.
Yes, that's a shame. But again, just interesting that they built in some image recognition, some very basic image recognition into their app, so it can save you the struggle of reaching across and pressing a button.
That's pretty funny.
We all struggle with, first world problems. I think that's a fun one. But again, it's just a very interesting use of AI technology to build into your application to extend its functionality. I would kind of hope, beyond the fun of this, they extend it into some more interesting areas, which I think they certainly can do. But again, interesting to see that those things are being built in. And I think, again, the bigger point for the enterprise is you will start seeing these things across every application in your suite, across your IT suite. They'll all start building these things in. So when you think about AI, it's not just about either building some models yourself with your data science team. It's not just about building a massive Hadoop cluster and some 100 servers. It might just be updating your latest version of Zoom, and you get these things built in. Well, not for free, but there is an update. So many avenues that these kind of capabilities are starting to be brought into the enterprise.
Excellent. Any other news on the Zoom front? Zoom AI and AI being embedded in products front?
I think Zoom are probably doing an awful lot, but that's it for me. From me today.
All right, excellent. Well, if you enjoy these quick news updates, you know what to do. Please like, comment, and subscribe, or share it on Twitter, share it on LinkedIn. We would love to get those shares and have those conversations with you, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Take care.